Welcome to the Unbecoming You podcast, the only practical spirituality podcast dedicated to the woman who has everything except herself, where audacious, creative, neurodivine women liberate from the endless endeavor of becoming better versions of ourselves and remember that you've always been your own permission slip to be wholly, exquisitely, undeniably you. I'm your host, Kalyani Leela Taylor. If listening to this episode moves you as much as it does me making them, subscribe to join us for every episode. Here's the thing no one tells you. Our worth was never up for debate. But we've been living like it's still something we have to earn. Performing, perfecting, proving. Being enough isn't a prize we win. It's the truth we remember. And today I'm calling it enough already. The lie we swallowed is that enoughness is something we earn. That if we achieve more, aspire higher, hold it together better than anyone else, worthiness will be the crown we wear. So we put on the masks. Productivity is identity, perfection is armor, proving as a personality. These aren't traits, they're roles. And roles are exhausting because you're always trying to keep them up. But underneath every role is the same ache. Am I enough yet? For years, I measured my value by output and optics. Gold stars, polished resumes, how seamlessly I could hold everybody else's world together. And underneath that curated surface, a quiet emptiness that kept asking, why isn't this working? The truth was I wasn't lacking. I was lost in a game that was rigged to keep me questioning my value. I want to start with a line that has lived in my bones for years. It's by Alan Watts. The meaning of life is just to be alive. And yet everybody rushes around in a great panic, as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. If there's anything that captures the absurdity of how we measure enoughness, it's that. We're alive and somehow convinced that being alive isn't enough. Today we track our worth through follower counts, algorithm crumbs, productivity trackers, and whether our everyday moments look postable. But beneath all that noise sits the quieter question. Enough for who? And here's the twist that cracked something open in me. The person I was secretly trying to be enough for was always myself. Not my family, not society, my own impossible bar. My own childhood wound, carrying a clipboard and a checklist. But I know it's not just me. This is a collective ache we're drowning in. The endless endeavor of becoming, improving, fixing. And all it's done is make the divide between who we truly are and who we think we need to be feel like she's grown wider, deeper, further away. We've been devoted to everyone and everything outside of ourselves. And it isn't wrong, but it's often guided by the hope that if we're everything to everyone, we might finally feel enough for ourselves. Yet being everything for everyone is not the path home to yourself. And I'm sure you already sense that. Because she, the real you, has never actually disappeared. She's just been buried beneath all the becoming. But she's closer than you think. So how do you get back to her? Well, the journey's more practical and more simple than you've been led to believe. She is your divine foundation. Your essence that never wavers. So I don't subscribe to the idea that you need to reprogram yourself. You simply need to remove what is not you so you can reconnect with what has always been true. And I'll talk more about that in episode 3, Burn the Lies. My story of enoughness begins long before I ever even knew the word. I felt not enough since the moment I realized my father no longer lived with us. I was little, but I understood enough to sense something had shifted in a way I couldn't fix. And when he formed a new family with children almost the same ages as my sister and me, that wound carved its thesis statement into my developing being. Why wasn't our family enough? Why wasn't I enough? Why would he choose to be a dad to kids who weren't his, instead of showing up for the ones who were? That's the moment I started chasing enoughness. But it wasn't in a classic people pleaser way, nor in the let me shrink so you'll love me way. No, love. My flavor of not enoughness was more subtle, but more insidious. I became who I thought everyone needed me to be. I overfunctioned, I overheld, I overachieved. Not for applause, but for belonging, for proof, for the deep, unspoken desire to finally matter to someone the way I wanted to matter to my dad. I didn't know it then, but that was the moment I became a lifelong contortionist, bending myself into shapes I thought would make me less abandonable. And it's why the double meaning of this episode title hits so deeply. Enough already. The meaning is not only you are enough already, but also enough already with abandoning ourselves. Because that's what this really is. A reckoning with the ways we've left ourselves behind. Over the years, the pattern followed me into adulthood. I became the good one, the responsible one, the girl who made sure everyone else felt supported, safe, and comfortable, while I quietly starved for the love I was so busy giving. I did everything right, or at least everything I thought was right. And still my family rejected me in ways that reinforced the early message: you are not enough. So what did I do? I doubled down. More success, more drive, more devotion to the wrong people, more willingness to abandon myself if it meant maybe, finally, someone wouldn't abandon me. And the irony? The more I tried to become enough, the further I drifted from myself. Because as I'm sure you're discovering, every act of self-abandonment just widens the gap between who you truly are and who you've contorted yourself to be. And you may think that you need to excavate every childhood moment to heal, but you don't. You probably already have an inkling of the moment you shaped your own not enough. And then throughout your life, all those smaller, seemingly insignificant moments that echoed at the same frequency, accumulating, compounding, reinforcing the belief, while you kept striving to undo the very thing you didn't cause. That ache of not quite here. That whisper that something is still missing. That's not brokenness. It's the hunger to return to your authentically whole self. And you won't find her through the endless avenues of becoming. Not through the achieving, the fixing, the improving, or the contorting. Because she isn't out there. She's here. Right here, love. The night I realized I had abandoned myself came quietly for me. No drama, no explosion. Just me. Laying alone in bed. Exhausted from carrying someone else's potential. When the truth finally rose. How did I become the woman who abandons herself so no one else will? I understand that most of us want to be our true self, but before we can, we have to unbecome who life's circumstances shaped us to be. Trauma isn't the event, it's the meaning that takes root inside of you. I won't take up space. I'll be easy to love. I'll be twice as smart so no one questions my value. But there's no mantra that can erase a wound you're still organizing your life around. There's no sound bath that clears a belief you've never confronted. And no amount of positive love and light dissolves self-abandonment. I've said it before, I'm not a chanting circle girl. And sound baths, as calming as they're supposed to be, make me more anxious. I'm a modern spiritual woman with a full-ass life. My healing has to be practical, embodied, and doable. And that's why I call it practical spirituality. It's really about seeing myself clearly, meeting my thoughts honestly, and choosing to come to the well of my own being every day. To drink her in, to breathe her in, to remember her. Because love, you cannot be you if you don't even know who you are. And you cannot know who you are if you're still trying to be enough for everyone but you. People have always thought my introversion is a personality trait. In reality, it's always been my sanctuary. The fewer people I let in, the fewer could reject me. Solitude wasn't loneliness, it was safety. A soft room inside myself. It birthed my resilience, my depth, and my drive, with the belief that if I excelled enough, I would be enough. And the deeper truth is this: today, I feel more and more enough for me. And what that means for anyone else, it's none of my business. Because the truth I keep circling back to is painfully simple. Just being here, the real me, is enough. Nothing is simpler, and yet nothing is harder. And there was a moment not long ago. It was simple, almost unforgettable. I was sitting outside with an invigorating cup of matcha, soothing sunlight on my face. There was no self-improvement searching, no achievements happening, no becoming in progress, just me, breathing, alive. And I giggled, a soft surprise kind of giggle, because suddenly Alan Watts' words weren't poetic. They were literal. The meaning of life is just to be alive. And here I was finally feeling it without even trying to earn it. It was also the moment I realized I've always been enough. Not because of what I've done, but because who I am. The fucking fact that I was born is evidence that God knew the world needed my unique expression. And honestly, if we're being real, once I stopped chasing enough, I could finally admit how exhausting it was to keep trying to earn my place in my own life. Always showing up over giving. Always doing more than asked. Always holding it all together. Sound familiar? Demi Lovato really did call us out when she sang, "I wonder when I love me is enough." Girl, same. Because when you step back and look at the absurdity of all the ways we've tried to earn who we already are, you have to be able to laugh with yourself. It's the levity that lets the truth land softer, honestly. And it's the humor that allows us to breathe again. Enoughness isn't achieved. It's remembered. It's not a finish line or the trophy. Girl, it's your baseline, the ground beneath you. The problem was never that you're not enough. It's that you think you're not enough. So here's my invitation to you, love. What if, just for today, you moved from the truth that you are already enough? No scorecard, no measuring stick, No invisible standard. Just you, whole, right now. And here's a love note I want you to take with you. I'm not a problem to fix. I'm a wonder to remember. Enoughness isn't something I earn. It's who I am. And the moment I claim it, my whole life begins to breathe differently. I am the permission I've been seeking to be who I am. And that, my friend, is a soul-scribed mic drop of this episode of Unbecoming You. Wrapped in resonance, ready for reflection. A full exhale until next time. If you're ready to let go of the roles, the rules, and the residue, the Burn Journal to Liberation is waiting for you. No more self-improvement, only self-liberation. Write and burn your way home to the sacred imprints of yourself you never intended to abandon, buried beneath the becoming. Grab it at kalyanitaylor.com. Thanks for sharing this magical, messy, and meaningful journey with me. If listening to this episode moved you as much as it does me making them, subscribe to join us for every episode. And I'd love it if you give the podcast your honest rating and review and share it on your socials.